I never imagined a single moment could shatter my heart when they fired the Black Maid. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was strange, surreal, like a scene from a twisted movie. I stood there in the kitchen, the aroma of burnt toast lingering in the air, my heart pounding against my ribs. Ms. Johnson had always been the pillar of our home. Her presence was a balm for our chaos. The sun glinted off the polished countertops, but the light felt cold. I could see her, standing motionless, her hands trembling slightly. Her usually warm eyes were now glossed over, a storm brewing behind them. I could sense the whispers in the room, tense, afraid, unsaid things hanging like thick fog. My mom was pacing, her face etched with worry. Dad's jaw was tight, silence crashing down around us like an avalanche. Romance and resilience mixed into something ugly. We all knew the truth, we whispered it late at night when sleep evaded us. Ms. Johnson was more than staff, she held us together. Now, that bond hung by a thread. I felt this dull throb in my chest, a fearful anticipation of the unknown. When it happened, that dreadful moment, it struck with the force of lightning. "It's not personal, just business," the employer had said, but it felt like a dagger thrust into the heart of our home. I could hear Ms. Johnson's sharp intake of breath. She clutched her apron tightly, and for an eternity, silence swallowed everything. The door creaked behind her as she turned, a haunting farewell painted across her face. Tears slid down her cheeks. Each drop mirrored my own pain. Emotion flooded the room, thick and suffocating. I wanted to reach out, to tell her she mattered, that she was loved. But I was paralyzed by fear, suffocated by doubt. What would happen to us without her? The speculation churned inside me like acid. As the door clicked shut, something shattered inside, a part of me I didn't know existed. Was it right to grieve so deeply for a person who was, in our society, meant to be invisible? The air between us grew brittle, and I felt it snapping. I fell into a spiral of questions. What would become of her? What lay ahead for us? The room felt smaller, the walls closing in with every heartbeat. While chaos unfolded outside, ours was a quiet storm. Just as I thought I couldn't bear another second, a low knock echoed through the tense silence. The kind that raises goosebumps on your skin. The knock felt like a warning, an omen of something yet to come. My heart raced, uncertainty clawing at my insides. Who could it be? Did Ms. Johnson leave something behind? Would our world shift again? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I stood frozen, heart pounding, as the knock reverberated through me. I glanced toward the door, a mix of curiosity and dread curdling in my stomach. My parents exchanged a tense look, but neither of them moved. I felt a magnetic pull toward the door, an almost desperate urge to uncover what fate awaited us. Gathering the courage that felt like a distant memory, I crossed the kitchen floor, once vibrant, now draped in an unsettling stillness. The door creaked open under my hesitant grasp, revealing that familiar silhouette against the dim hallway light. It was Ms. Johnson. A sob escaped my throat, raw and desperate. She stood there, wrapped in an oversized coat that hung loosely from her shoulders, looking as though the weight of the world had been placed upon her. The warmth in her eyes was flickering but still present, as she whispered, "I came to say goodbye properly." Her voice cracked, and a glimmer of resolve danced along her features. It was a slow realization that wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. She hadn't truly left us yet. "Come in," I stammered, urgency lacing my voice as I grasped her arm and ushered her inside. The air felt electric as she stepped across the threshold, each footfall echoing our shared heartbreak. My mom and dad remained silent sentinels, watching from the kitchen's edge, a mix of grief and relief reflected in their eyes. Point two, didn't want you to remember me like that, she said, wiping her eyes with the last remnants of dignity. I always wanted you to remember the laughter and the joy, not the sorrow that I fought back the lump in my throat, words trapped like a fish in a net, caught between what I wanted to say and how terrified I was of being vulnerable. Instead, it was my dad who broke the silence first. Ms. Johnson, you're not just our maid. You're family. We want you to stay. Each word felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Her eyes filled, the sheen of tears catching the light, and for a moment, I thought she might say something that would ease our raw ache. I can't, she finally whispered. I have to go find a new path. But I will always cherish the time we had together. You were so much more than I ever expected. The warmth of connection started flooding back in, but as quickly as it arrived, shadows loomed. I sensed the clock was ticking, that we were merely staving off an inevitable goodbye. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. We're going to miss you so much, I breathed, my voice trembling. Promise me you'll take care of each other, she said, her voice gentle yet strong, like the anchor of this storm-tossed ship. Don't forget how to laugh, even when it seems impossible. Mom stepped forward, brushing a hand across her cheek. Do you need anything? A place to stay? Her words were a desperate plea wrapped in compassion. Ms. Johnson shook her head slowly, a melancholy smile spreading across her lips. I have to find my own way, dear. It's time for me to search for what's next, even if it feels lonely now. In those few words, she conjured a foreboding reality that loomed over us all. We were all searching for our own paths, and sometimes those paths led us away from the people we loved. As she prepared to leave, I felt a surge of emotions battling within me, swirling like a tempest. It was as if she embodied the essence of our home, and without her, we were going to be lost. Wait! I blurted out, grasping her shoulders before she turned to leave. Please let us know how you are. We need to hear from you. I promise, she said, a soft nod breaking through her flickering smile as she pulled me into a hug. Something shifted then, a sliver of hope emerged through the heavy fog of despair as I breathed in the scent of her familiar perfume, mingled with the memories of countless shared smiles and conversations. But as the door clicked shut behind her, I felt the shattering inside twist anew. Could we really move forward without her? I turned to see the poignant pain reflected in my parents' eyes, only to witness something far more alarming. A letter perched precariously on the counter where Ms. Johnson had once stood, a stark contrast against the backdrop of our disarray. With hesitant hands, I opened it, my breath hitching as dread washed over me. The words leapt off the page, blaring a shocking revelation: you were never meant to know her true identity. The energy shifted. Resilience gave way to confusion, and the atmosphere thickened around us, my heart racing in a cacophony of fear and uncertainty. I stood there, paralyzed under the weight of the unfolding mystery, every heartbeat ringing in my ears. What did it mean? What more had we lost, hidden behind that gentle smile? The seconds unfurled into lifetimes as I clutched the letter, its revelation a jagged shard lodged deep within tumultuous thoughts. My parents hovered nearby, their faces growing ashen under the weight of unspoken words. The chaos inside me mirrored the storm outside, a relentless battering of rain against the windows. I could almost hear the tapping, echoing the alarm in my chest. Is this a joke? I cut through the heavy silence, my voice wavering as I flipped the letter, desperately searching for clarity. What does this mean? Who was she really? Mom stepped closer, her eyes darting between the letter and my anguished expression. Don't know, she stammered, pinching the bridge of her nose as if to stave off the gathering headache. We thought she was part of this family, but perhaps. My heart cracked further, splintering into something I couldn't quite piece together. The image of Ms. Johnson, her laughter, her kindness suddenly felt tainted by the weight of hidden truths. Why would she keep something like that from us? I managed, anger and hurt entwined, choking the words. Maybe she was protecting us. Dad's voice, heavy and thick like molasses, finally broke through the shadows. You know how complicated some things can get in life, but she was more than just some hired help. She was. My voice faltered as the line blurred between who I thought I knew and the truth of her life. Our friend, just then, the wind howled outside, a mournful wail that mirrored my heart. With sudden resolution, I decided we couldn't let this be the end. We need to find her. We need to know the truth, I said, looking at my parents. Hope flickered within me, fragile yet fierce. Perhaps this was our way to keep her alive in some form. Mom looked at Dad, and after a shared moment of silent communication, they nodded. We'll do this together, Dad said, his voice steadying me against the tide of uncertainty that I hastily dried my tears, feeling a surge of defiance in the face of this betrayal. But how? She left without a trace. That we may not have her address, but we can start with the few contacts we know, Mom suggested. The few places she mentioned. The community center. The church. There has to be someone who can help us. The realization hit me like a lightning bolt. Those institutions hadn't simply been places she worked, perhaps they were cradles of her other life, the one that she had kept hidden from us. Let's go tomorrow, I urged, the idea solidifying like iron. There has to be something waiting for us. The determination set in, a flicker of a plan ignited within me, chasing away the immediate shadows. Despite the fear clawing at my gut, I felt a newfound purpose crackling to life. But the shadow of Ms. Johnson's true identity loomed like a specter. What if we uncover something we're not ready for? What choice do we have? Dad murmured, shaking his head with a tight-lipped frown. We're already in the thick of it. It can't get worse, can it? I felt my heart racing again, not with dread, but with the taste of adventure laced with worry. We have to be ready for anything. She's counting on us, I whispered, my voice brushed with the bravado of the promise. As night draped itself like a comforter over the house, I climbed into bed, where shadows danced on the wall. But sleep was a feeble companion. Every creak of the house sent jolts of anxiety through my body, and the letter, now folded neatly on my bedside table, felt like a staring eye, condemning. Would we still love Ms. Johnson when the truth carved its way into our lives? Just as weariness began to tug on my eyelids, a chime resonated from my phone, a message notification. Eager but apprehensive, I reached for my phone, only to find an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen, but the pulse of curiosity pushed me to open it. Find me. I have to explain. Before it's too late. My breath caught. I clutched the phone tighter, fighting a fresh wave of panic coursing through me. What did this mean? Was Ms. Johnson reaching out? Had she known we would go looking for her? The message felt like a tether to the tumultuous storm swirling within me, hope mingling with a deepening dread. There, in that moment, I stood on the precipice of discovery, unaware of the depths yet to unfold and the heart-wrenching truths that awaited just beyond the horizon. The morning arrived heavy with anticipation, the sun struggling to break through the clouds that reflected the inner storm brewing within me. I sat at the worn kitchen table, tracing my fingers over the grooves of the wood, an unconscious ritual as I replayed the message in my mind. Find me. I have to explain. Before it's too late. It felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, but I was uncertain how to grasp it. Mom and Dad were unusually quiet, caught in the whirlpool of their own thoughts, sipping coffee that had gone cold. I studied their faces, searching for some inkling of hope or reassurance, but all I found were shadows of concern. The gnawing idea that we might be on the brink of something irreversible loomed large, yet the chance to uncover Ms. Johnson's truth pulled at me, a magnetic urgency that couldn't be ignored. That we should drive by the community center first, I suggested after a heavy silence had settled between us. She used to talk about the kids there, how much she loved working with them. Good idea, Dad agreed, his voice hoarse. Let's not waste any time. As we stepped out into the world, the sky offered no consolation, gray clouds drenching everything in a muted palette. The rhythmic patter of rain felt familiar, almost comforting, but it only deepened the heaviness in my chest. Our family car, often a sanctuary filled with laughter, was now permeated with an eerie silence, each mile feeling like a decade passing by. When we finally arrived at the community center, it stood before us like an old friend, yet now foreign and strange. I could picture Ms. Johnson bustling around inside, her smile warm, her laughter echoing in the hall. But today, the streets were nearly empty, save for a few weary souls hurrying by, each umbrella bobbing like a vessel amidst a churning sea. The three of us walked inside, and the air was heavy with memories. The reception desk sat empty, a clear sign of the holidays dragging everyone away. I swallowed hard and approached the old bulletin board adorned with faded flyers. There was a dull ache in my heart, an awareness that everything had changed in an instant. "Excuse me?" A voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see a woman in her 40s, her hair pulled into a messy bun and eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Can I help you? We're looking for someone Ms. Johnson," I said, my heart racing as I spoke her name aloud. We heard she might still be here. The woman's expression morphed into something unreadable, shadowing her face. "Ahis, she was here, but she hasn't been in for a while. Volunteers come and go, and sometimes they leave without a word." Her voice cracked slightly, and I saw the way she glanced down, as if hiding a deeper truth. "Were you close to her?" Mom interjected gently, her eyes earnest with concern. "Ms. Johnson was special to many of us," the woman replied. "She brought life to this place. Her absence is felt deeply." A wave of anguish washed over me. What had happened to her? "Have you heard from her? Any idea where we might find her?" She hesitated, her eyes darting to the side, almost as if the answers were hiding amongst the flurry of people outside. "There are rumors, but I can't share idle gossip." "What rumors?" I pressed, needing to pry open any crevice of knowledge that might point us in Ms. Johnson's direction, but before the woman could respond, the door swung open, and the air rushed in with a burst of cold winter chill. It caught everyone's attention, including mine, and my heart dropped. A figure stepped through, wrapped in an oversized coat, their face obscured by a thick scarf. But even through the layers covering them, I felt a clarity of recognition and unyielding pull. "Ms. Johnson?" I gasped, rushing forward, but before I could reach her, she glanced around, her eyes scanning the room, landing on me and then hardening as sharp panic flickeregno bloomed within them. Her gaze was a tempest of fear, and for a heartbeat, I saw the woman I thought I knew slip away behind a mask of terror. "Leave me alone!" she shouted, whipping around to bolt back outside, leaving cold reality crashing in around us like the winter rain pelting the pavement. "Wait! Please!" I yelled, lunging after her, but by the time I reached the threshold, she was already gone, swallowed by the storm. The chilling realization set in our pursuit of truth, we had triggered something deeper and far more troubling than we could have imagined. As I stood there, frozen at the doorway, thunder rolled ominously overhead. This perilous chase for understanding was spiraling into something potentially dangerous, a reckless dance with shadows that I wasn't prepared for. Impossible questions filled my mind. What had she known? What had she been trying to escape? And what did her sudden fear reveal about the life she had been living? The damp air tightened around me, heavy with uncertainty as Dad and Mom rushed to my side. "What just happened?" Mom breathed, her eyes wide with confusion and concern. "I don't know," I whispered, my heart spiraling into the unknown. "But we have to find her. I can't let this end like this." And just like that, with the warning of an approaching storm echoing both in the skies and within, I embarked on a path fraught with danger, uncertainty, and the haunting whispers of truths yet to be unveiled. The rain fell harder now, a relentless pulse drumming against the ground, mirroring the uncertainty swelling within me. I stepped back from the doorway, the hum of the community center fading as the door clicked shut behind me, sealing in the warmth of memories tainted by confusion. My family huddled close, their concern knitting tighter around us in the storm of urgency spiraling in my mind. "Did you see her face?" I whispered, almost to myself. "What's wrong? Why did she run?" Dad put a hand on my shoulder, grounding me in chaos. "We need to think this through. Maybe if we go back out and look for her." Panic laced the edges of my desperation. "What if we can't find her? What if she's in danger?" I was acutely aware that every second counted, the clock ticking against us as unanswered questions infiltrated my thoughts. Mom squeezed my hand, her warmth offering a flash of comfort. "There has to be someone who knows something. The woman at the desk seemed to have a hint about her situation. "Maybe she can help us, let's go back," Dad said firmly. I could see the determination mirrored in his eyes, stoked by a flicker of hope amidst the rising dread that as we stepped back inside the center, I felt a new weight pressing against my chest, just like the dark clouds hanging low in the sky. The woman was still at her desk, fiddling with her pen, lost in thought. I approached with hesitant urgency, a tempest of emotions swirling within me. "Excuse me, do you know where we can find Miss Johnson? She just ran out, and two need to talk to her." "I wish I could help," the woman said softly, her voice trembling. "But sometimes, Miss Johnson would mention she'd spoken of a place. The old park, the one near the river." My heart seized at the thought. I remembered accompanying Miss Johnson on community outings there, her laughter echoing like the distant chimes of a peaceful memory. Could she be there? I asked urgently, grasping at any shred of hope. "Maybe. It's possible she needs to be alone," the woman said, her eyes holding a depth of sadness. "But if she's in trouble, I wouldn't wait." "Thank you," I breathed, rallying my family as we turned to leave. It dawned on me just then that hope was not merely an abstract idea. Today it came in the form of this kind stranger, offering us a compass for the tempest we were navigating. The ride to the park was a blur. Conversations of dismay mingled with fervent, whispered prayers. As we approached the sprawling greenery, the sight stirred a mixture of nostalgia and anxiety within me. The trees loomed taller now, dark silhouettes against the stormy backdrop, and the wind howled, mimicking the uncertainty I felt. "Maybe we should split up," Mom suggested as we parked. Her voice shook, but her resolve cut through the emotional haze. "We can cover more ground that way." "Good idea," Dad nodded, his eyes focused on a distant figure hunched over by a bench near the river. "I'll head that way. Just stay close and call if you find her." We each took a different route, my heart thundering in my chest as I navigated through the trails, calling out Ms. Johnson's name, each echoing breath heavier than the last. The air was thick with tension, murmured apologies spilling from my lips, directed at nature for dragging this moment into shadows. Then, just as despair began to settle like a dense fog in my mind, I spotted her. There she was, Ms. Johnson, her figure silhouetted against the river's edge, standing still except for the gentle sway of her coat in the wind. Relief crashed through me, yet uncertainty soon filled the space it left behind. Approaching her slowly, I noticed the way her shoulders were hunched, the way she stared out into the stormy waters, as though searching for answers hidden deep within. "Ms. Johnson?" I called softly, trying to bridge the distance that seemed to stretch between us. She turned, surprise flickering across her features, but behind her eyes I detected something darker, something unseen lurking in the shadows of her mind. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured, her voice trembling on the edge of despair. "Why not?" I pressed gently, hoping to coax her into trusting me. "I'm worried about you." "What's happening?" In that moment, as the rain began to pour down harder, the world fell silent, encapsulating us in a cocoon of intimacy, the roar of the storm fading to a distant hum. I saw her face soften, but only momentarily, before a fierce glint of determination set fire in her gaze. "There are things you wouldn't understand, things I can't explain. Try me," I urged, reaching out my hand as the rain washed over us like a baptism. I could feel those invisible strings connecting us, pulling tighter, urging for trust. Suddenly, she took a hesitant step back, her breath hitching unexpectedly. "You don't know what you're asking for. I can't bear to see you hurt because of me." Just as the words hung heavy, the oppressive atmosphere shattered with a crash of thunder, an explosion that reverberated through the very core of my being. The connection between us frayed, a subtle warning that real danger was not just on the horizon but dawning on us right then. My heart pounded as she turned her back to me, fear gripping her like an iron vice. "You have to go before it's too late." And with that, as the storm swirled around us, I faced my own choice, to stay and push for the truth or to leave, weary and afraid, before this tempest consumed us both. A decision that felt all too final echoed in the air as I weighed my next move. Just then, a distant sound rose above the storm voices, shadows approaching in the distance, breaking through the silence of the park. And the fear that clamped around my heart twisted tighter. locking me into a claustrophobic reality I never imagined would shatter my world. The downpour intensified as I stood frozen, uncertainty colliding with my resolve. The voices were growing louder, ominous and unfamiliar, and for a fleeting moment, all I could think about was the two worlds that seemed to be closing in on me, my own hidden turmoil and the storm brewing in Ms. Johnson's heart. "Please don't go," I implored, taking a tentative step toward her. The vulnerability in my voice surprised even me, echoing across the expanse of rain-soaked grass. "I can help you. Whatever it is, I swear I can help." She closed her eyes as if blocking out the storm's noise, fighting a silent battle I desperately wished to understand. "Help?" she whispered, almost to herself, her breath shallow. "Help comes with a price." The words hung ominously between us, heavy with unspoken fear. And just as I opened my mouth to ask her what she meant, I saw her gaze darting behind me, her expression morphing from despair to outright panic. "Run!" she shouted. "Run!" Before I could fully digest her command, she turned to sprint towards the thicket, a blurred figure moving amidst the sheets of rain. The voices weren't merely shadows anymore, they took shape, merging with the storm, amplification of my growing dread. Instinct took over as my legs surged into motion, but my heart wrenched painfully at the idea of leaving her alone. "Ms. Johnson!" I called, spinning around, but uncertainty reigned as the voices crept closer, footsteps sloshed against unyielding mud, urgency embodied in that chaotic rhythm. They were approaching, men's voices rough and authoritative. "Where'd she go?" A gravelly voice boomed through the downpour. A new wave of adrenaline propelled me forward, for what I felt was beyond fear. It was an unwavering need to protect the woman who had been a beacon of hope in our community. I couldn't abandon her now, not when danger lurked like a dark specter over us both. The thicket provided cover as I made my way into the dense foliage, my heart racing louder than the rain. Peeking through the leaves, I could see two men emerging from the path, soaked to the skin and scanning the area with hostility in their eyes. "She couldn't have gone far," one of them said, his voice laced with irritation. Fear curled in my stomach as I crouched deeper behind a cluster of ferns. I felt helpless, a silent observer in a perilous game, my only weapon being my curiosity and the small flickers of courage battling against the tides of fear. "Damar. Kent isn't going to be pleased," the second man grumbled, a note of foreboding in his tone. "We promised to bring her back. The longer we wait, the more she's going to jeopardize everything." My world shifted. "Mr. Kent." The name clawed at the edges of my consciousness, linked to whispered conversations about shady dealings and veiled threats within the community, the same undercurrents I had always brushed aside. But here, in the suffocating shower of rain and anxiety, it was all too evident that this was a trap woven into a sinister narrative that stretched much deeper than I ever imagined. Just then, the men began drawing closer, still oblivious to my presence. "Let's split," the first man said, motioning to the other. "I can't risk getting caught in the rain without knowing where she is." As they stepped away, uncertainty rushed through me. Would Ms. Johnson still be safe? Should I follow them or search for her first? My heart raced as I wrestled with the urgency of the moment. Finally, with a deep breath and a resolve I didn't know I possessed, I emerged from my hiding place, determination coursing through my veins. It was then that I saw a shadow dart at the corner of my eye. Ms. Johnson was back, her expression a mix of fear and defiance. "You shouldn't have followed them," she hissed, her sharp whisper cutting through the percussion of rain. "It's too dangerous. I couldn't leave you, not when they're after you," I said urgently, my voice trembling as I reached for her arm. "We need a plan. We can't let them take you back." The steel in her gaze softened as if a small glimmer of hope ignited between us. "We need to get to the old shed," she urged. "It'll by us. Time until they move on. Follow me." Without a second thought, I nodded, our unsaid bond solidified in that split moment. Together we dashed through the tempest, ducking and weaving through trees and mud, creating a fragile alliance made of courage and fear. But as we reached the shadow of the old shed, a sharp realization sliced through me, a truth I hadn't wished to confront. "To stay with you might just plunge us into something irreversible," I mustered, feeling the weight of each word. But before she could respond, the distant voices erupted again, now mixed with laughter and unsettling sound echoing against the tranquil rain. We both turned, and my heart stopped in a mix of horror and disbelief as I recognized the voice among them. It was my father, Dad. I gasped, eyes wide with confusion. The sinister implications of his presence struck like a lightning bolt through my soul. Why was he here? What had he gotten involved in? And in that moment, the fabric of all that I thought I understood began to unravel before me, tangled in the unbreakable storm, as danger loomed ever closer. The rain pelted down, each drop soaking through the layers of uncertainty that had amassed around me. My father, the man who had taught me the virtues of honesty and compassion, was now entangled in something dark and unfathomable. The laughter echoed again, unholy and menacing, that familiar sound twisted beyond recognition, transforming what was once comforting into a sinister taunt. Your father? Ms. Johnson whispered, scanning my face for clarity. It was as though she could sense the volcano of chaos bubbling beneath my skin. You need to hide. Now that I shook my head, a defiant surge pushing me forward. I can't just leave. Not when he's involved in whatever this is. The urgency to protect her battled against an overwhelming wave of dread. My heart felt disloyal, betraying me with its incessant thumping against the cage of my ribs, each beat a reminder of the stakes escalating with every drawn breath. Think. She urged, gripping my shoulders with a fierce intensity. If he's here, it means they're closer than we thought. We can't let them see us together. Frantically, my mind whirled with unspoken words. To confront my father was to confront the very essence of my upbringing. How could I challenge the man who embodied the ideals I had been raised with? Yet, the complexity of being his son mingled inextricably with the fear of losing Ms. Johnson. The laughter faded momentarily into the night, rendering what felt like an endless silence. I could sense them shifting, the men's voices seeping through the wall of rain like a ghostly echo, growing nearer once again. No one can know you're with me, Ms. Johnson warned, her voice low but edged with a fierce resolve. If they figure it out. I squeezed my eyes shut, wrestling with the truth I'd hoped would remain buried. What if I want to stand by you? What if I want to challenge whatever my father is mixed up in? Her gaze bore into mine, the vulnerability creeping back into her features. You don't understand. This isn't a fight you can win with resolve alone. It will cost you more than you know. Before I could respond, the ominous laughter burst forth again, erupting amid the intense downpour. Let's check the shed, one of the men shouted, the harshness in his voice sending a chill down my spine. Panic sparked a fire in my gut. We need to move. I grabbed her wrist, pulling her towards the cover of a nearby tree, desperate to shield her. The shed was no longer our sanctuary, it had become a spotlight for our peril. As we ducked low, crouching behind the gnarled roots of an ancient oak, a flicker of commotion stirred at the edge of the path. I caught sight of my father, his silhouette half hidden by the shadows, debate raging within the group of men surrounding him. He appeared different, hardened, almost ruthless. Was that the glint of anger lurking in his posture? She knows too much. I heard him say, his voice sharper than I had ever known it to be. We can't risk letting her loose. She has connections. A sickening knot formed in my stomach. Connections? Ms. Johnson had always shared stories of her struggles, the way she fought tirelessly for her rightful place in the community. I believed in her tenacity and courage, yet now my father's words threatened to unravel that belief, leaving threads of doubt in their wake. Suddenly, with an alarming burst of adrenaline, the men surged forward, and my pulse quickened. We have to run. I shouted, but we were already out of time. We stumbled backward, but before we could make a clear escape, a figure stepped into our path. Another man, drenched and formidable, eyes gleaming with intent. What are you doing here? He growled, head swiveling toward my father, who stood immobilized, eyes narrowing as he took in the chaos absorbing our little world. We were trapped, the walls of danger folding in around us, but before I could voice my fear, something changed in my heart, spurred by a desperate will to protect. Ms. Johnson, go! I yelled, pushing her away from the encroaching threat, but her refusal stumbled into my chest, tightening the grip of desperation. We face this together. She pledged, Her voice imbued with resolve, and it was then that I knew hope and dread would follow me like shadows, intertwining as I prepared to confront not only my father's betrayal but the unfolding morality that had engulfed everything I thought I understood. Yet, amidst that storm-torn clarity, I ventured forth, ready to uncover the truth lurking just beneath the surface when suddenly, with my heart in my throat, I overheard the final piece, spoken by the man blocking our escape. "Get the others. If we don't keep this under wraps, Mr. Kent will have our heads tomorrow." Kent again, the shadowy figure looming ever larger in my life, like a puppeteer manipulating strings with menacing precision. As realization dawned, leaving a chill to seep through my bones, I thought of betrayal, of fear, and of choices yet to come. That I turned to Ms. Johnson, our eyes locking, the weight of the world pressing down as I prepared to leap into the unknown, the danger swirling around us like a tempestuous sea. And in that moment, a dreadful clarity emerged, eclipsing any glimmer of hope, tightening around us as an unforeseen horror beckoned. The night thickened around us, the weight of our predicament nearly unbearable as the shadows gathered like an audience drawn to a dark spectacle. The urgency pulsed in the space between breaths, a palpable thing between us, tethering Ms. Johnson and me deeper into the chaos unfolding outside our fragile haven. That I could feel my heart racing, not just from fear, but as I watched Ms. Johnson's face twist from determination to panic. As her body instinctively mirrored my movements, she leaned closer, her breath mingling with the rain-soaked air. "We must get away from here," she whispered, punctuated by the thunder that cracked overhead, echoing the tumult inside me. "I can't lose you to this, not now." The heaviness in my chest weighed against my will. Images of my father, the man I had revered all my life, melted into a tapestry frayed by deceit. How could he deny Ms. Johnson, a beacon of kindness in our community? "If he's involved, we have to confront him," I replied, pushing past fear with an inch of bravado. "The truth is the only way out." Her eyes glimmered with a mixture of hope and desperation. "And what if the truth destroys everything we stand for?" she countered, glancing back to the men still looming, intense and wary. "What if it costs you your father?" Inside my heart, I felt the fissures deepening, each hour spent entangled in this web of treachery breeding new dread. But even as my resolve faltered, another instinct flickered to life, the kind that clung to survival, to friendship forged in flames. "No matter what, I can't abandon you," I whispered fiercely, caught in the tug of my loyalty to her and to my blood. Before she could respond, the tension shifted abruptly as the formidable figure blocking us nodded sharply to another darkly clad man. "Get him. We can't leave the mansion without him, and we can't afford to lose ground," he growled, the urgency in his voice shrouded with menace. To my horror, he gestured to a nearby car, its headlights pierced through the sheets of rain, momentarily illuminating the jagged edges of desperation lurking in the periphery. My father's earlier words echoed warnings in my mind. "The others? Mr. Kent?" Panic gripped me as I envisioned a surge of faceless figures rallying, tightening around us. "If they find out I'm here with you." The breath hitched in my chest as the weight of our combined dread settled heavily between us. "Then we won't let them," Ms. Johnson asserted, her eyes flaring with determination. "But we have to act now." Just then, a loud thud echoed from behind the shed, the sound ricocheting in the stillness. "Go," I urged, instinctively grasping Ms. Johnson's hand. We skirted around the gnarled roots, but a sudden flash of light engulfed us, the car's headlights illuminating everything for a split second, branding us in stark reality. As we dashed into the brambles, the adrenaline of flight surged in my veins, mixed with fresh terror. With each pounding step, the laughter of the men grew fainter behind us, though their pursuit was palpable, buoyed by the urgency of our situation. We ducked into the cover of the thick brush only to find ourselves gripping each other as we hid, breaths heavy with anxiety. "This won't last long," she breathed, looking both resolved and terrified. Drops of rain cascading through the leaves above felt like fear cascading into the pit of my stomach. "That I know," I replied, feeling the reality of our connection harden into something more significant than mere survival. "But somewhere, there has to be a way to break this cycle. Your courage inspires me, Ms. Johnson, it always has." Her gaze softened for a moment in the dim light, and in that fragile passing, we clung to each other's hope. Then let's hold on to that whatever happens. Yet, our brief moment of solace shattered as human forms materialized, 3 shadows now outlining our sanctuary. They're everywhere, I whispered. But we can't give in. Suddenly, as if the air around us cracked under pressure, a chilling command rang out from the shadows: find them. A different voice, not my father's, but equally ominous. It was Mr. Kent's tone. Unmistakably authoritative, dripping with venom, panic ignited, the flames of alarm catching in my throat. They knew we were here. My father, still engaged in dark mysteries, was out there in the rain, searching for us while this sinister figure commanded the night. Every ounce of loyalty, fear, and desire to protect Ms. Johnson lived in that imminent threat. We can't stay here, she urged, her grip tightening on my hand. We have to risk it. Before I could respond, a jarring crack echoed through the night, making the earth tremble beneath us. The men began to disperse, the shadows shifting with an unsettling intent. This isn't over, I heard one mutter, and disquiet surged through me. With no more time to lose, Ms. Johnson and I angled ourselves away from the clearing, our freedom snatched by the relentless pulse of destiny. But as we stumbled forward, breathless and desperate to escape, I felt a vibration in my pocket, the text message vibrating against my skin that I fumbled for my phone, my heart sinking as I read the words that cast shadows deeper than any night could hold. I know where you are. Meet me or the consequences will be dire. My eyes met Ms. Johnson's, and amidst the chaos, a terrible realization dawned: we were ensnared in a trap far worse than anything we had imagined. The decisions ahead, now heavier than life itself, pressed down on us as we prepared to step into the unknown once again. The chilling intensity of the message pulsed beneath my fingers, each word exploding with ominous potential. I felt it seep into my bones, wrapping unyielding tendrils of dread around my heart. What does it mean? Who is it from? Ms. Johnson urged, concern etched on her delicate features. It's from someone who knows we're here, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper against the thunder that rumbled ominously overhead. The edges of my world began to blur, heightening the fear that clawed at my insides. The implication struck hard: a predator in the shadows, drawing us deeper into their deadly game. Can we trust them? She asked, unease dancing in her eyes. I shook my head, uncertainty mingling with desperation. No, I replied, but the weight of my father's name hung heavy in the air. But we have no choice. We can't stay hidden, and we can't let them catch us. My thoughts raced as I recalled the leering smiles of the men we had evaded. This might just be the lifeline we needed. What if they're just trying to draw us out? She whispered, fear lacing her voice. What if it's a trap? I looked deep into her eyes, feeling the spark of our bond ignite amidst the darkness. Then we make it our own trap, I said, a plan swirling in my mind. We need to find him first, whoever he is. We must know more. With a shared determination, we took the plunge into the encroaching shadows, navigating with care as we skirted the perimeter of the property. Each rustle of leaves, every whisper of the wind, blurred the line between predator and prey. The men were still searching, their stakeout in the night echoing in the threads of tension that tied us together. Crouching behind a dense thicket, I glanced at my phone again, fingers trembling with urgency. The message had been delivered only moments ago, but each second felt like an eternity. They won't wait long, I murmured. Not when they think they have the upper hand. That we need to act quickly. Can we use a distraction? Ms. Johnson's voice was steady, an anchor in the storm. I scanned the area around us, my heart racing as an idea took shape. If I can create a diversion, we might slip around the perimeter and into the mansion to confront whoever sent the message. We can draw them away, she nodded, though her eyes flashed with trepidation. It's risky, but it's a chance. My breath caught as I conjured the image of my father's face, the fear that had washed over him the last time we spoke, the desperation to shield me from the fallout of his decisions. I swallowed hard as I reminded myself that trust in him had faltered. It now lay in fragments, scattered like the leaves in the forest. He was entangled in something dark and malevolent, and it was time I unraveled it. Sensing my resolve, Ms. Johnson reached out, squeezing my hand tightly. Together, remember? Together, I echoed, feeling the comfort of her presence fortify me against the fear that loomed like a tempest. Just before stepping into the shadows, a figure crossed our path, another man, dressed similarly to those who had chased us moments ago, but in stark contrast, he was solitary, seemingly out of place. He paused near a flickering streetlight, casting quick glances around, and for a moment, he appeared lost, his movements erratic and unclear. Do you see that? Ms. Johnson whispered, her brow furrowing. Who is that? He's not one of them, I murmured, inching closer, curiosity overtaking caution. We stepped from our hiding place, and as I approached, hope flickered faintly. Maybe he was a potential ally. Hey! I called out softly, motioning with urgency. Can you help us? We're being chased. The man jumped at my voice, eyes wide with panic. You've got to go. You can't be here. He urged, stepping back as if fearing we might somehow draw danger to him. We can help you. Ms. Johnson pleaded, taking a step forward. Her inherent kindness broke through his initial fear. No, listen to me. You don't understand. He stammered. They're not just looking for you, they want someone else. His voice trembled, urgency spilling into the words as he glanced around cautiously. My heart sank. Who? Who are they looking for? The maid. The one from your house. They think she knows something about your father. That's insane. I felt my world tilt. It wasn't just us at risk but someone innocent caught in our web, someone who had always treated me with kindness. We have to find her. Suddenly, the man's eyes widened in horror as voices drifted closer, mere shadows of authority in the dark. You have to go. Now. He urged, panic filtering into every word. My heart raced as Ms. Johnson and I exchanged glances. Our plan to confront whoever sent the message had just escalated into an urgent rescue mission. But even as I felt the call of responsibility wash over me, the realization that this path could lead to consequences I had never anticipated hung heavily in the air. As we turned to flee, desperate to arm ourselves with information, the man called out after us. If they find her first, a splintering crack of branches echoed in the distance, footsteps closing in, relentless. As despair coiled in my chest, I felt the weight of countless choices congealing into a single moment, a precipice from which there was no return. I stand at the edge of chaos ringing in my ears, my heart in a relentless race against time. Each flickering heartbeat resonates with untold stories of betrayal and protectiveness, a whirlwind of emotions spiraling within me as Ms. Johnson and I crouch behind the rusty shed. Rain drenches us, a shroud of anonymity in the very place that used to cradle our fondest memories. I can hear the men, their voices dragging behind them like heavy chains, the authority that once terrified me now igniting a fierce determination inside. Why do they want you, Ms. Johnson? I whisper fiercely, the storm echoing my gut-wrenching doubts. What do you know? Her gaze flickers briefly, hesitation settling like fog in the spaces between us. There are things you're not meant to understand, she replies, her voice barely above the rain's quiet song. Things that could cost you everything. And yet, amid that fear, the light of familiarity ignites. She doesn't just carry my past, she embodies a future I never thought I'd have to fight for. If they find you, they'll, I hesitate, words tumbling forth like stones that shatter silence. They'll hurt you, won't they? It's already too late for that. Her voice drips with bittersweet resignation, but it only fuels my urgency. Then we have to face this, I insist, grasping her hands in mine, the warmth fighting against the oppressive chill of the pouring rain. Well, confront my father, whoever these men work for will uncover everything. A heavy breath escapes her lips, vulnerability shadowed by the weight of fear. You don't know what you're asking for, she imparts softly, her eyes glistening with something deeper. Could it be regret, or the glimmer of a lost dream? I do know. My voice is steadier than I feel. I've seen what your strength means, what it means for us both. But just as she opens her mouth, doubt dancing in her expression, a figure materializes, a shadow from the storm closing in, a memory tied with blood and legacy. It's my father, his silhouette harsh against the dim light, panic rippling across his features as he searches for something he may never find. Look, there's no time left. The men have shifted. No longer just distant theories cloaked in rain and panic. They are now danger incarnate, approaching with purpose. Let's go. I'll distract them, you wait for my signal. If they catch me, you run. Are you insane? Ms. Johnson's voice is piercing, her grip tightening as if to tie us together in this moment. You'll be walking into a trap, this is how we end this, I insist, urgency fueling my resolve. I won't let you pay the price for my family's sins. As I move to slip out from our hidden spot, her voice calls out softly, breaking through the storm's tumult. Promise me you'll be careful, she urges, a mixture of fear and fierce pride cloaking her words. With a nod, I steal one last glance at her, unwaveringly beautiful even in the downpour. My heart thrums against the cage of my ribs as I sprint away from her, deliberate steps that echo courage and desperation alike, maneuvering towards the shadows gathering in the distance. I can't let this unfold as I feared it would. I watch the men, clumped together, their intentions dark and pointed. Hey! I shout, the word rising above the storm like a beacon of defiance. What do you want with her? They turn, surprise morphing into irritation as they spot me. Get lost, kid. One barks, a sneer creasing his mouth. But fear has no power over my courage today. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is she, I fire back, resisting the urge to glance back at Ms. Johnson. I need her to stay hidden, safe from this chaos I've provoked. Move aside. The leader snarls, stepping toward me. But just as I brace for the storm of violence, the earth shifts beneath our feet, a shifting ripple that shocks me to my core. A loud crash draws everyone's attention, a flurry of movement as figures erupt from the shadows, merging into the downpour of sweat and rain-slicked skin, weapons glinting under the storm's fury. Hey! You! My father yells, tightening his grip on his own men. What's going on? He seems panicked, the very essence of authority unraveling before my eyes. The moment blurs into chaos. The men surge forward, so do the shadows, swirling in betrayal and fear as the air grows thick with confrontation. I stand paralyzed, swallowed by the intensity, the hurt pouring forth like monsoon rain, and just when I think despair will tear me asunder, Ms. Johnson emerges through the fray, determination etching every feature. They've no claim over me, she declares fiercely, locking eyes with my father, a resistance fueling the fire of her spirit. But you, how long can you keep hiding in the darkness? Time freezes. My father, my source of comfort, my guiding light, shatters at the edge of her words. He takes a step back, the veil lifted momentarily to reveal the humanity hidden beneath the armor forged of pride. I didn't want this for you, for us, he stammers, eyes darting between me and Ms. Johnson, dispelling the barrier that had stood for so long. But it was for your protection. Protection from what? I interject, my voice rising amid the crackling tension of the storm. You want to keep her hidden while endangering her. Their eyes flash, but the truth lies bare beneath layers of deceit. Because she knows more, another man adds, stepping forward defiantly. More than she should ever know, but I've said nothing. Ms. Johnson's voice is a fierce beacon, cutting through the chaos, demanding attention. I've only sought to protect those that matter, like you both. You're delusional if you think that will save either of you. The leader sneers, his eyes narrowing on her, his tone an undeniable threat that slithers through the air like all-consuming dread. Then fight me. The words escape my lips against all reason, provoking something primal within me, a call to arms for those I care for. If this is what it takes to claim our lives, let's end this cycle of fear. And then I turn, taking a step back, signaling for Ms. Johnson to stand beside me, arms raised against the approaching storm. That moment clears a path, a breath of courage amidst uncertainty shining bright against the backdrop of rain-laden chaos. My father's face twists, a deep conflict nested within his soul, swallowed by regrets both buried and inflicted. I won't let you destroy yourself, he mutters, glancing between us, the love that once consumed him now battling against something darker. But the tide is shifting, the current of this storm drawing us closer together, breaking barriers that had kept our truths entangled in shadows. And then, with the intensity of the storm reaching a fever pitch, I declare, we choose this, what? He blinks, bewildered by the determination flooding my voice. Our truth, our unity, I conclude, apprehension melding courage. We're not leaving each other behind, not now. If this is a fight you're willing to wage, then we'll stand together. In that defining moment, as the thunder crashes above and the storm rages around us, the skies begin to shift, light breaking through the clouds in a glorious, tumultuous release. A shared understanding washes over us, permeating the chaos with hope, a fierce storm of resilience unyielding in the face of darkness. As I feel Ms. Johnson's hand tighten against mine, strength floods my veins, erasing the bonds of division that had once torn us apart. And together, we prepare to forge forward into the unknown, face the unfolding truth, and rise above the raging storm that threatens to drown our spirits, because now, finally, I understand the greatest battles are not fought in isolation, they are fought in unity. In that moment, as the air thickens with anticipation, I whisper a truth I never thought I'd accept: in the eye of the storm, I have finally found my home. And whatever comes next, we'll write our story together against the deafening roar of fate.